The ground had always breathed, not loudly, not violently, just enough for the people of Hollow Vale to pretend it was the wind beneath the hills, or the echo of distant thunder trapped underground. Children grew up feeling the earth rise ever so slightly beneath their feet every dawn. Farmers timed their harvest by the slow rhythm beneath their fields. The old houses creaked at exactly the same hour every night, as if the entire village sighed together before falling asleep. No one questioned it, because some mysteries become ordinary when they have existed longer than memory. But on the morning, everything changed. The breathing stopped. For the first time in hundreds of years, the village woke to complete silence. No trembling windows, no gentle vibration beneath the floorboards. Nothing. The silence felt wrong, like the world itself was holding its breath. And by sunset, the mountain opened its eye. 12-year-old Rowan was the first to notice. He wasn't supposed to be outside. His grandmother had warned him countless times never to wander beyond the Whispering Ridge after dark. Some places, she always said while staring into the fire, remember things that people were never meant to know. Rowan had laughed every time, until now. He stood frozen among the tall silver grass, watching the western mountain glow beneath the setting sun. At first he thought it was a trick of the light. Then the glow blinked. Slowly. Once, a gigantic golden eye, larger than the village square, opened between layers of stone before closing again beneath the mountain itself. The cliffs shifted. Birds exploded into the sky. The entire valley trembled. Rowan stumbled backward, unable to breathe. No, his voice barely escaped his lips. Mountains don't blink. The silence answered him. By the time Rowan reached Hollow Vale, panic had already begun spreading through the streets. The baker claimed the river had started flowing backward for several seconds. The blacksmith swore every piece of metal in his workshop had begun humming at once. Dogs refused to leave their homes. Horses knelt without command. Even the oldest trees seemed to lean toward the western mountain. Something impossible had awakened, or perhaps something had merely opened one eye. The village elders gathered before the ancient bell tower, arguing louder than anyone had ever heard them argue. There must be an earthquake. It was sunlight reflecting from the cliffs. Impossible. We should evacuate. We have nowhere to go. Rowan tried to speak. I saw no interruptions, Elder Bram snapped. I saw the mountain, but no one listened. Children were rarely believed, especially when they spoke of impossible things. Only one person looked directly at Rowan, his grandmother, Elara. Her face had turned as pale as winter ash, not with confusion, with recognition. That night, she locked every window, closed every curtain, then carried an old wooden chest from beneath the floorboards. Rowan had never seen it before. Dust covered its carved surface. Symbols spiraled across the wood like twisting roots. His grandmother opened it carefully. Inside lay a faded map, an old compass made from crystal instead of metal, and a journal whose pages had nearly fallen apart with age. She touched the cover with trembling fingers. I prayed, she whispered, that you would never need to see these. Rowan stared. What is all this? Instead of answering, she asked a question. Tell me exactly what you saw. Every detail, the blinking eye, the shaking cliffs, the silence. When he finished, his grandmother closed her eyes. For a long moment, she simply listened, not to him, to the earth beneath the house. Then she whispered words Rowan would never forget. The giant is waking. Outside, another tremor rolled beneath Hollow Vale. This one was stronger. Books slid from shelves. Water rippled inside cups. Portraits tilted along the walls. Somewhere in the distance, something enormous shifted beneath miles of stone, not walking, turning over, as though an unimaginably massive body had adjusted its sleeping position. The sound arrived several seconds later, a deep rumble, not like thunder, not like an earthquake, more like the slow heartbeat of a living mountain. Boom! Silence! Boom! Silence! Each pulse seemed to echo inside Rowan's own chest. "What giant?" he whispered. His grandmother looked toward the western peaks, the one carrying this entire valley. She opened the journal. Its first page contained only one sentence. "If these words are ever read again, then the sleeper has begun to dream." Rowan frowned. "What does that mean?" "It means," Alara said quietly, "that every story you've ever been told about Hollow Vale was only half the truth." She turned another page. Ancient drawings covered the paper, not maps, not landscapes, a colossal figure sleeping beneath forests, rivers, and mountains, entire castles resting upon its shoulders, villages built across its arms, clouds drifting around its face. The giant stretched farther than Rowan could imagine. One hand disappeared beneath the sea. Its feet vanished beyond distant deserts. "It can't be real. I used to believe the same. But," she pointed toward the western mountain, "you've seen the eye." Rowan nodded silently. She continued, "Our ancestors didn't build Hollow Vale. They inherited it." "From who?" "No one knows." "Then how do you know this is true?" "Because my grandmother showed me the same journal. And hers before that. And hers before that. For 7 generations, one guardian in every family was chosen to remember." Rowan swallowed. "Remember what?" Alara hesitated. "The promise." Before Rowan could ask another question, 3 loud knocks shook the front door. Bang! 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 His grandmother froze. "They've come." She quickly hid the journal beneath her cloak. When she opened the door, 3 elders stood outside carrying lanterns. Their expressions were grim. "Elder Bram requests every family gather at the bell tower immediately." Alara nodded. "We'll come." The oldest elder looked directly into her eyes. "You knew." It wasn't a question. She answered only with silence. The elder sighed. "So, the stories were true after all." The bell tower overlooked the entire valley. Hundreds of villagers crowded beneath its weathered stones. Children cried, parents whispered, farmers clutched their hats nervously. No one laughed, no one smiled. The western mountain seemed different now, larger, watching. Elder Bram climbed the tower steps. "For generations," he announced, "our ancestors left us instructions for times of great danger." Murmurs spread through the crowd. "The oldest vault beneath the tower has been opened." Gasps. "It contains records older than our village itself." More whispers. "But," he paused, "the writings cannot be understood." A nervous silence followed. Then an old woman slowly raised her hand. "I can." Every head turned. Alara. She stepped forward. Rowan's heart pounded. His grandmother had never spoken during village gatherings. Never. Yet now every eye rested upon her. Elder Bram stared. "You've seen these writings before." "Yes." "Why did you hide this from us?" "Because the prophecies said hope survives only while the giant sleeps." The crowd erupted. "What prophecy? What giant?" "Enough riddles." Alara raised the journal. Her voice remained calm. "We do not live beside the mountain." She pointed toward the western cliffs. "We live upon him." Silence crashed across the valley. No one breathed. Someone laughed nervously. Another called her mad. But before anyone could speak again, the ground moved, not shaking, rising. The entire village lifted several inches into the air, slowly, like a ship floating upon a wave. Roofs tilted, church bells rang wildly, the river curved unnaturally, trees bent without wind. Then everything settled once more. No earthquake had ever moved like that, because earthquakes do not rise, they break. This felt alive. Far beneath Hollow Vale, something enormous had taken a single sleeping breath, and somewhere beyond the mountains, a second colossal eye opened in the darkness. The silence that followed Alara's words felt heavier than the mountain itself. No one moved. No one dared to breathe. Then the shouting began. "She's lying! It was an earthquake! Mountains aren't alive! My grandfather said the valley was built by kings!" Fear spread faster than reason ever could. Parents grabbed their children. Merchants abandoned their carts. Some villagers ran toward the eastern road, believing distance alone could save them. But the road no longer existed. A deep crack had split it from one end to the other, as if an invisible hand had drawn a line across the earth. The only path leading out of Hollow Vale had disappeared. The village was trapped. That night, no one slept. Every few hours the ground rose and fell with the same slow rhythm, not violently, almost peacefully, like the chest of someone lost in a dream. Rowan lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Each pulse made the wooden beams groan softly above him. Boom! A pause. Boom! He counted them. The heartbeat came exactly every 63 seconds. Always the same, always steady. It wasn't random. It was alive. Across the room, Elara hadn't closed her eyes once. She sat beside the fire, reading the ancient journal, turning each fragile page with incredible care. The orange light reflected across drawings that seemed impossible. Entire civilizations built upon the giant's body. Bridges stretching across fingers the size of mountains. Forests growing from its shoulders. Rivers flowing through the folds of its skin. One illustration stopped Rowan cold. It showed people, just like them, standing around a sleeping face larger than a continent, not worshiping it, protecting it. "Grandmother?" She looked up. "Who drew these?" "I don't know. They're thousands of years old." "Were there really people before us?" Elara smiled sadly. "There are always people before us." She pointed toward a faded paragraph written in a language Rowan couldn't read. My grandmother translated only part of it. "What does it say?" She closed the book. "It says, the giant did not create the world. The world grew upon the giant." Rowan frowned. "I don't understand." "Neither do I." "Then how can anyone know what's true?" Elara looked into the fire. "Sometimes stories survive because facts are too small to explain what happened." A loud knock interrupted them. This time it was softer, urgent. When Elara opened the door, Elder Bram stood outside alone. He looked exhausted. Dark circles surrounded his eyes. For the first time in Rowan's life, the village leader looked frightened. "I need your help." Minutes later, Rowan followed them beneath the bell tower. Few villagers even knew tunnels existed below it. Stone stairs spiraled deep into darkness. The deeper they descended, the warmer the air became. Not hot, comfortably warm, as though the earth itself gave off body heat. Rowan froze. "Do you feel that?" Elder Bram nodded. "It wasn't like this yesterday." Another staircase, another chamber, then another, until they reached a pair of enormous stone doors covered in the same spiraling symbols carved into Elara's chest. The doors stood open. Someone had forced them apart centuries ago. Beyond them waited a room untouched by time. Dust covered everything. Ancient shelves lined every wall. Broken statues watched silently from the shadows. Crystal lamps glowed faintly despite having no visible flame. At the center stood a circular platform carved from black stone. Upon it rested something impossible. A map, not drawn, moving. Golden lines shifted slowly across its surface, like veins beneath transparent skin. Rowan stepped closer. The rivers moved. Mountains rose and lowered ever so slightly. Clouds drifted across tiny forests. It wasn't a map. It was alive. "What is it?" Alara answered, almost in a whisper. "I think it's him." The golden lines pulsed, exactly in time with the heartbeat beneath Hollow Vale. Boom! Golden light spread through the map. Boom! The river shimmered. Boom! Tiny forests swayed. Then something changed. A bright point of light appeared where Hollow Vale stood. The point blinked once, then began moving, heading slowly toward the giant's chest. Elder Bram's voice trembled. "What does that mean?" Before Alara could answer, letters began appearing across the stone. None of them were being written. They simply emerged from the surface itself. Rowan watched as symbols twisted into words. Even stranger, he could understand them. The first heart has awakened. More words followed. The second will follow. The dream must not become fear. Then everything vanished. No one spoke for several seconds. Finally, Rowan whispered, "What dream?" No one answered, because no one knew. As they climbed back toward the surface, the heartbeat suddenly stopped. Complete silence. Again. The three of them exchanged nervous looks. Then, for the first time, they heard a voice, not through their ears, inside their minds, deep, ancient, gentle, almost unbearably sad. "Is someone still here?" Rowan gasped. He looked at Alara. She had heard it too. Tears filled her eyes. Elder Bram dropped his lantern. The flame went out instantly. Darkness swallowed the tunnel. The voice came again, softer, weaker. "I cannot remember." Then silence returned. When they emerged into the night, the village was in chaos. People pointed toward the sky. Others knelt in prayer. Some simply cried. Rowan looked up. The stars had changed. Constellations, familiar for generations, had shifted into an entirely different pattern. One enormous constellation now stretched from horizon to horizon. It resembled a sleeping figure. Its head rested above the western mountains. Its hands reached across the northern forests. Its feet disappeared beyond the eastern sea. The giant wasn't only beneath them. The heavens remembered him, too. Before anyone could make sense of what they were seeing, a deafening roar echoed across the valley. Not an animal, not thunder, stone. Entire sections of the western mountain began collapsing. Massive cliffs broke apart like brittle shells. Clouds of dust rose into the moonlight. As thousands of tons of rock crashed into the valley, something beneath them slowly emerged. Not skin, not bone. A colossal surface unlike anything Rowan had ever seen. It shimmered faintly like polished stone, yet moved with the softness of living flesh. The mountain had never been a mountain. It had been armor. And now it was beginning to crack apart. The valley fell into absolute silence. Even the rocks seemed afraid to land. As the dust drifted through the moonlight, the enormous surface beneath the shattered mountain became clearer. It curved gently toward the horizon, covered in glowing lines that pulsed like rivers of golden fire beneath translucent stone. It wasn't skin. It wasn't rock. It was something older than either, something that belonged to a forgotten age. The heartbeat returned. Boom! The glowing veins brightened. Boom! The entire valley answered with a soft vibration. Every pulse sent tiny waves across the colossal surface, as though life was slowly returning to a body that had slept longer than history itself. No one in Hollow Vale spoke. For the first time, everyone believed Alara. Morning never truly arrived. The sun rose, but its light seemed strangely dim, hidden behind enormous clouds that circled only above the western peaks. Birds abandoned the forests. Fish leaped from the rivers before swimming downstream as fast as they could. Even insects disappeared. Nature was leaving. That frightened Rowan more than anything else. Animals always sensed danger first. By midday, fear had divided the village. One group wanted to escape, even if the roads were gone. Another insisted they should climb higher into the mountains. Others believed the giant had awakened to destroy them and demanded sacrifices to calm whatever ancient force lived beneath the valley. Old friendships shattered within hours. Neighbors accused one another of bringing a curse upon the village. Some blamed Alara. Others blamed Rowan, convinced that the boy had awakened something by witnessing the eye. Fear always searched for someone to blame. Inside the bell tower, Alara spread the ancient journal across a stone table. Rowan, Elder Bram, and a handful of trusted villagers gathered around it. "There must be more," Bram said. "There has to be." Alara slowly turned another fragile page. Most of the writing had faded beyond recognition, but several illustrations remained. One showed the giant asleep beneath a peaceful world. The next showed darkness spreading across the sky while monstrous creatures descended from above like living shadows. The third illustration stopped everyone cold. The giant was standing, not attacking, protecting. His enormous hands formed a shield around countless tiny cities. Behind him stretched an endless darkness filled with burning red eyes. "What are those?" Rowan whispered. Alara shook her head. "I don't know. But look." She pointed toward the bottom of the page. Small figures stood upon the giant's shoulders. Children. Not soldiers, not kings. Children carrying glowing crystals toward the giant's head. Below the image was a single sentence that had survived the centuries. Only the innocent may awaken the heart without awakening the wrath. No one understood its meaning, but Rowan couldn't stop staring at the children. There were 12 of them, exactly 12. One of them held a crystal shaped exactly like the compass inside Alara's chest. That evening, the compass began to glow. It had remained silent for generations. Now, golden light poured from its crystal. The needle spun wildly before stopping, west, straight toward the exposed surface of the giant. "It wants us to go there," Rowan said. "No," Alara answered. "It wants someone to go." Bram looked toward the frightened villagers outside. "No adult will follow us. They're terrified." Rowan took the compass. "I'll go." His grandmother immediately objected. "Absolutely not. If no one goes, we'll never know what's happening. It's too dangerous." What if that's exactly why the journal shows children? The room fell silent. No one wanted to admit it, but Rowan had a point. Before anyone could decide, the voice returned, stronger this time. "Little ones." Everyone inside the tower froze. "Can you hear me?" The voice sounded exhausted, lonely, like someone waking after an endless nightmare. Rowan closed his eyes. Yes. The answer escaped before he realized he had spoken. Another pause. Then, thank you. The words carried unimaginable relief. Not anger, not power, gratitude. Suddenly, Rowan saw something that wasn't there, not with his eyes, with his mind, a flash, an endless plain beneath a sky filled with stars, a colossal figure walking among mountains that reached only to his knees, children laughing as they ran across his enormous hands, forests growing wherever his footsteps touched the earth. Then, darkness, a storm unlike anything imaginable. Creatures made entirely of shadows, a battle so enormous that continents seemed small beside it. The giant fallen, slowly choosing where to land, curling his body around something hidden beneath him. Then sleep, a sleep that lasted thousands upon thousands of years. The vision ended. Rowan collapsed to one knee, gasping. "What did you see?" Ilara asked. He looked at her with tears in his eyes. He wasn't hiding. Everyone stared. He was protecting something. What? I don't know. But he chose to fall here. The room became silent again. If the giant had chosen this place, then Hollow Vale had never been an accident. As sunset painted the sky crimson, the first expedition left the village. Rowan, Ilara, Elder Bram, and 6 volunteers. No one carried weapons. For some reason, bringing swords felt meaningless. How could steel threaten something larger than mountains? Instead, they carried ropes, lanterns, food, and the glowing compass. The journey that normally took 3 hours lasted almost an entire day. The land itself had changed. Fields had tilted into gentle slopes. Entire forests had shifted several meters. Fresh streams flowed where no water had existed before. It was as though the valley was slowly reshaping itself around the giant's awakening. Just before midnight, they reached the place where the mountain had broken apart. Everyone stopped, not because they wanted to, because they had to. Standing before them was the giant's hand. Only the back of it emerged from the earth. Yet it stretched farther than the eye could follow. Each finger was wider than a castle. Ancient forests covered parts of it. Entire cliffs rested across its knuckles. The glowing lines Rowan had seen from afar now resembled immense rivers of light flowing beneath the surface. The hand twitched, only slightly, but that tiny movement sent a gust of wind powerful enough to knock everyone backward. The giant wasn't waking all at once. He was remembering how to move. The compass suddenly floated into the air. Golden light surrounded it. Its crystal projected a beam toward the center of the giant's hand. There, hidden between enormous ridges, was a circular doorway. It had not been carved into the giant. It had been built, perfectly round, made from white stone, unlike anything in Hollow Vale. Ancient symbols surrounded its edges. As Rowan stepped closer, the doorway began to glow. One by one, the symbols lit up, until only one remained dark, the symbol directly beneath Rowan's feet. Without warning, it illuminated. The massive door trembled. Ancient mechanisms groaned deep below. Dust poured from its edges. Then, with a sound that echoed across the valley, the doorway slowly began to open. A warm, golden light spilled from the darkness within. And from somewhere deep inside the giant, a child's voice whispered, "You're finally here." The ancient doorway groaned as it slowly opened, releasing a warm, golden light that washed across the giant's immense hand. The air carried no scent of dust or decay. Instead, it smelled like rain after a long drought, mixed with something Rowan had never experienced before, a feeling of home. Everyone stood frozen. The child's voice echoed once more, "Please, hurry." No one could tell where it came from, Not from the tunnel, not from the valley. It seemed to come from the giant himself. Rowan stepped forward first. "I'm going." Elara grabbed his shoulder. "If the stories are true, you may not return." Rowan looked back at the frightened faces behind him. "If I don't go, none of us may." For a long moment his grandmother searched his eyes. Then she removed the crystal compass from around her neck and placed it in his hands. "It belonged to every guardian before me." She smiled through tears. "Now it belongs to you." The passage beyond the doorway was unlike anything they had imagined. Its walls shimmered like polished crystal, yet they felt warm beneath their fingertips. Golden streams of light flowed through them, pulsing in perfect rhythm with the giant's heartbeat. Every step deeper inside made the heartbeat stronger, louder, closer. The tunnel curved gently upward before opening into a chamber so vast that its ceiling disappeared into darkness. In its center floated a sphere of brilliant golden light. It was as large as a cathedral. Thousands of glowing threads stretched from it in every direction, disappearing into the giant's enormous body. The heart, not made of flesh, not made of stone, made of living light. And beside it stood a child. She looked no older than Rowan. Silver hair drifted around her as though underwater. Her eyes glowed softly, reflecting countless stars. She smiled. "You came." "Who are you?" Rowan asked. "My name has been forgotten." "Are you human?" "I was." The words settled over the chamber like falling snow. "I have been waiting since the day he fell asleep." Rowan frowned. "That's impossible." She nodded. "For you, yes." She touched one of the glowing threads. "For the heart, time flows differently." Elara stepped forward carefully. "Why did you call us?" The girl's smile faded. "Because he is waking too early." Images suddenly appeared in the air around them, not illusions, memories. The giant walked beneath a young world, carrying forests across his shoulders while children laughed in his enormous hands. Then darkness consumed the sky. Creatures of living shadow poured from the heavens, swallowing mountains and oceans alike. The giant fought them for days that became centuries. Finally, realizing he could not destroy them forever, he chose another path. He wrapped his own body around a radiant crystal buried deep within the earth, a crystal that pulsed with the same golden light as the heart. "He sealed them away," the girl whispered, "below himself." The images changed again. The giant collapsed. Mountains formed across his body. Forests grew. Rivers flowed. Generations passed. People forgot. But the prison remained closed because he never woke. "The breathing," Rowan whispered. "It wasn't sleeping." The girl nodded. "It was holding the seal together." A cold silence filled the chamber. "If he wakes completely, the prison opens. And if he never wakes, he dies." Everyone stared at her. For thousands of years he has carried the weight of the world. His strength is fading. He cannot sleep forever. "So what do we do?" Elder Bram asked. The girl looked at Rowan. "There is only one choice." The heart began to flicker. Its golden light dimmed. The entire chamber trembled. Far above them, cliffs collapsed into the valley. The giant's heartbeat slowed. Boom. A longer pause. Boom. The girl closed her eyes. He cannot hold both. Hold what? The prison? And his life? The crystal compass suddenly floated into the air. Its light joined the heart. The ancient journal inside Elara's bag burst open on its own. Pages turned rapidly until the final one. Unlike every previous page, this one was blank. Slowly, glowing words appeared. The guardian is not one who keeps the giant asleep. Another line formed. The guardian is one who reminds him why he must wake. Rowan stared at the words. Then he understood. The stories were wrong. Elara looked at him. They weren't protecting us. They were protecting him. Without another word, Rowan walked toward the heart. The girl stepped aside. What are you doing? I think. He placed one hand against the sphere of light. I'm going to wake him. The instant his fingers touched the heart, countless memories flooded his mind. Children playing across endless valleys, people building homes upon the giant's resting body, generations living peaceful lives, because one lonely guardian had carried their future through endless centuries. The giant had never asked for worship, never asked for thanks. He had simply chosen to protect a world that would one day forget his name. Rowan felt overwhelming sorrow, then gratitude. He spoke from the deepest part of his heart. You don't have to carry it alone anymore. The chamber erupted in light. Across Hollow Vale, every person fell to their knees as a wave of golden energy swept through the valley. Flowers bloomed instantly. Dead trees burst into leaf. The river shone like liquid sunlight. The enormous hand resting beyond the mountains slowly opened, not in anger, in relief. The giant's eyes opened completely. They were brighter than dawn itself. For the first time in thousands of years, he smiled. The smile was small, gentle, almost childlike. Yet it transformed the entire world. Clouds scattered, sunlight poured across the valley, fear vanished from every heart. Far beneath the earth, the prison cracked. Dark shadows surged upward. Before they could escape, the giant slowly lifted one hand. The motion was effortless. Golden light spread from his fingertips across the hidden depths below. The darkness dissolved without a sound, not destroyed, healed. The hatred that had lived there for ages simply disappeared. The battle that had begun before history ended not with another war, but with compassion. The giant looked toward the tiny figure standing upon his hand. His voice rolled across the valley like warm thunder. Thank you for remembering. Then he closed his eyes once more, not in endless sleep, in peaceful rest. This time, his breathing no longer shook the world. It blended with it. The mountains remained where they belonged. The rivers continued to flow. The forests whispered in the wind. Only now everyone knew the truth. They had never lived on the land. They had lived in the care of a silent guardian whose greatest act of heroism was expecting nothing in return. Years later, travelers would ask why the people of Hollow Vale always greeted the sunrise in silence. The villagers never answered with words. Instead, they placed a hand upon the ground, felt its slow, peaceful heartbeat, and smiled. Some heroes are remembered in songs. Others are forgotten beneath the weight of the very world they chose to protect. The giant never asked for praise, power, or recognition. He simply carried hope for generations who would never know his name. Yet in the end, it wasn't strength that saved him. It was kindness, gratitude, and the courage of a child willing to believe the impossible. We often walk through life without noticing the invisible sacrifices that make our own lives possible. The people who support us quietly, the acts of love that expect nothing in return, and the foundations built long before we arrived. The greatest gift we can give is not admiration, it is remembrance. Because when we choose gratitude over fear, compassion over hatred, and hope over despair, we awaken the best parts of ourselves. And sometimes the strongest giants are the ones who carry the world in silence. If this story captured your imagination, there's much more to come. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss a new tale. Until next time, take care and keep wondering.